Most High said, this is the man that's going to give you the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. In the middle of the ghetto, no tie, no offering plate, no Cadillac, no church building. You're going to have to humble yourself to get it. Why? Because I don't need you, you need me. Hey, and humility comes before honor, right? Before you get promoted through the Spirit, you're gonna have to lay down and prostrate yourself. And you're gonna have to be taught again. You see that? Once again, James 4:17. Therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is a sin. So now she's been marked, right? Lord willing, she's been marked for life, right? Yahweh Ratzazah, she's been marked for life, right? That's why we out here, to mark those for life and those for death. Those that reject our message, hey, like it says in Matthew 14:24. Let me bring that out real quick, because this book is codified. Matthew 14:24 reads, bear with me. Matthew 24, how you doing? Thank you, sir. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 14. It reads, and this is the gospel of the kingdom. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world as a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. Right? It said that this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world as a witness unto all nations. Meaning no one will be able to say they didn't hear the message. They weren't taught the difference between good and evil, right? Like it says in the book of John 15:22, right? No one will have a cloak for their sin. No one will be able to say, I didn't know. Why? Because, hey, you were marked. When you came across those men, when you came across those videos, when you came across that information, you were told the right way. You were told what was necessary to obtain salvation, to elude the impending destruction, right? But if you reject it, that's on you. But this is why the judgment will be justified. Because Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, he's a just power. Right? He's a just power. So he's not just going to put his people, which are called by his name, in a conundrum that they can't get out of. What he's going to do is extend you that olive branch, as I stated when I came out. Right? By having this man go out, that's that olive branch being extended. So you can do what? Reprove your thoughts. Change. Be reformed. And hopefully obtain salvation. Right? Otherwise, God wouldn't be just. Right? That would be unfair. If he put you in a condition and he didn't give you the ability to be saved out of it. That's not love. Right? And we serve a love and power, but hey, an ass whooping is love. The Most High chastens who he loves. Right? But this is what eludes a lot of our people, their purpose. Why they were created to begin with. Right? Let me bring this out in the book of Ephesians, the 4th chapter, in the 1st verse. It says in Ephesians 4:1, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called. Right? With all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love. Right? But the point is, in the book of Ephesians, Paul was writing this letter to the church of Ephesus. It said, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called. Right? This is why I'm out, because that word vocation goes to the word calling or purpose, right? Because in this captivity, we've been commanded to have jobs, work from the sweat of our brow. That's a condition of being captive. You have to pay bills. You have to go to your enemy for the one of all things. So a lot of our people have what you call occupations, right? Our people have jobs. Some even have careers, right? But when you're dealing with vocation, right, you can have a career and you can retire from said career. After so many years, they might have a little get together and a little ceremony for you in the cafeteria. You might get a cup, you might get a pen, right? You might get a necktie, a vacation. You might even get, what you call Federal Reserve notes as a show of appreciation for working said amount of time in that particular field, right? At that particular occupation, right? But when we're talking about vocation, right? Ephesians 4:1 is talking about your vocation. It says, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you were called. Once again, that word vocation goes to the word calling or your purpose, right? And this is a lifetime job. This is something that you don't retire from. This is not something that you take long-term breaks from, right? This is something that from the moment that you pick up the plow and begin to walk, you continue, right? And you hold on for dear life to your vocation until, Lord willing, like I said, we be caught up to meet him in the air. Like it said in the Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter, being amazed at the strangers of our salvation, right? It even says that in the Bible, it said that there be some standing here that will not taste of death until they see the coming of the Son of Man. So there is an elect group that will not face a physical death here on this side. They'll be translated from these carnal chains of darkness to our glorified heavenly bodies. You see that? But this is what we know through faith, right? This is the hope of the elect, of the nation, of Israel. You see that? That we maintain the course, right? We continue on our vocation. Is doing what? Prophets, apostles, teachers. Whatever your faculty in the ministry, that's your vocation. And this is unto death. This is our life's work, right? And this is a labor of love, because the Most High could, like I said, do away with us at any given time. But when you're moving according to your purpose, then will nothing get in your way, because you are serving a divine purpose. You're not just out here serving some corporation's interest, feeding your own belly, trying to satisfy some women and children. You're doing what's thus said the Lord. You're doing that what pleases the Most High. That what pleases Yahweh B'Ashem Yahushua. And there's a large degree of protection that comes with that, right? Let me bring this out in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7 and verse 1. This is the book of Jeremiah, because we're going to get into the gates, right? This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7 and verse 1. It said, the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, stand in the gate of the Lord's house and proclaim there the word, and say, hear the word of the Lord, all ye of Judah that enter in at these gates to worship the Lord. Right? The scriptures say how Judah is blackened to the ground, and how our gates are languishing. Our gates is our leadership, because Our leaders aren't supposed to be in some cushy environment just giving motivational speeches, but our leaders, our gates are languishing. Why? Because we're our leaders, you know. And majority of our people, they have a full working knowledge that if you stand up for your people, you will be persecuted. You will be condemned. Your name will be evil spoken of. So our people don't want to, you know, suffer for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh's sake. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh's sake. Right? They'll go and they will prostrate themselves and lay on the ground for every nation, humiliate themselves at every turn, sell their souls for nothing. But when it comes down to them being a fool for Yahweh's sake, right? Being made a spectacle, being called a fool, being looked at as crazy, that's when, like I said, their pride and their ego steps in. And they're never able to take the first step to do that which is pleasing unto their God. Right? Jeremiah 7:1 once again. The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah from the Lord saying, stand in the gate of the Lord's house and proclaim there this word and say, hear the word of the Lord, all ye of Judah, that enter in at the gates to worship the Lord. This is why our gates are languishing, because all of our leaders are supposed to be doing this. All of our leaders are supposed to make this their purpose, their calling, their reason for being. But this is why our gates are languishing. This is why our nation has been totally subdued. This is why we're the offscouring of the earth. The nations wag and hiss. They laugh and say, is this the perfection of beauty? These are the Lord's people. Why? Because our gates have languished. Our leaders have failed us. Right? These preachers, you know, speaking of vocation, look at T.D. Jakes. He's retiring. Why? Because, first of all, judgment of the Lord. Luke 12:2 lets you know all things hidden will be revealed. Right? Eddie Long. Going the way of Eddie Long in the same fashion. Once your evil, wicked deeds began to come to the forefront, now you want to play as if you're going through all type of health crisis. Probably is. Right? And like it says in the book of Sirach. Let me get that real quick. All right, Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 14. Sirach 11:14 reads, prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of the Lord. Hey, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. T.D. Jakes, what, he down in the Potter's house, somewhere in Texas. He been drinking from the cup of the, well, devils, fraternizing and partaking in all type of sexual deviancy, and now it's coming to the forefront. And they, just like with Eddie Long, with his sexual deviancy. It comes to the forefront, then they all fade into obscurity. Until what? They be destroyed. Right? That's exactly what's going on with T.D. Jakes, adversity. Right? Let me bring this out in the book of Luke 12:2. I quoted it, but let me bring it out. Because the same holds true among these Israelite camps. You got Nate Satan doing all type of money blitzes, where he's shaking his congregation down, telling them that he's going to prepare a place for them, an Israelite sanctuary, an Israelite enclave, but he needs their money to do so. Hey, he's going to be found out, because he's going the same way as what? Chief Ephraim, Malachi Z. York, Pastor Dowell, Pastor Dowell. A lot of these guys, They bring that same little, making merchandise of their congregation approach. You know what I'm saying? One in that filthy lucre. Right? And they're being found out and exposed. And just like with Eddie Long, they found out that their pastor was molesting men in his church, committing all type of pedophilia and sexual deviancy while being married, doing this in the church. The men that he had been grooming and coercing and raping, they go on the news and they call Eddie Long out for all of his skullduggery. And do you think his congregation abandoned him? No. Some left, but a majority of them stood by them. Why? Because our people don't care nothing about being taught right. They care about that feeling. They want that feeling. Give me smooth words and we'll pay you for it. And the majority of our men, they know. If I get a church building, if I dress in tailor-made suits, if I trim my message, yes, these women will give me money. Yes, I will get opportunity. And a lot of our men, they've done just that. They go to these theological seminaries. They adopt the so-called white man's language, his doctrine, and they go out here in the world to obtain what? A level of comfort through what? Those Federal Reserve notes, through those grants, through that prosperity preaching, right? This is Luke 12:2. It says, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, and this holds true even in this walk, I can contest. There's been times when wicked men have come around me and they had all type of schemes and plots. But what did the Most High do? He revealed what their plans were, to the point where I was covered, I was saved, I was sheltered from whatever schemes, plots, and wiles the so-called white man or his cohorts whatever schemes or picks, right? Whatever devilishment goes on is going to be revealed. This is why sincerity goes far in this walk. Luke 12:2 reads, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in the darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. Right? So that's a very revealing precept as it relates to all of these men that have made covenants with death. Right? Here it is. You have these back room meetings. You perform these rituals. You partake in these lewd acts. And you think, oh, nobody sees me. I'm just going to go back into the forefront and continue to perpetrate a fraud. But the Most High said, no, 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 no. These words are faithful. These words are true. This goes for T.D. Jakes. This goes for Puff Daddy. This goes for Nate Satan. This goes for Brother Ephraim. Right? Malachi Z. York, the same thing. When they come up with these little schemes, come up and conjure these ideas to do what? Fatten yourself and your family, enrich yourself and your cohorts, and then just fade to black. No. The Most High will build you up just to see your ass destroyed. Right? Go the way of Puff Daddy. Go the way of T.D. Jakes. That's exactly what Nate Satan is doing. Right? The peg monster. Sakari. That's exactly what he's doing. Right? In the same fashion. Sakari. The peg monster. Pegasaurus, as we dubbed him. Here it is. He's totally made covenants. Jumped into bed with the Crips, the Blood. Adam 22. Down here in Atlanta. Get into any little sexual deviance he can get in. And then what happened? He's being exposed. He's being revealed. Like it says in Luke 12 and 2. Right? It's codified. This is why you want to do what's right. This is why repentance is important. This is what's essential about becoming a new creature. Where you put off that old man. Right? Where you could boldly say, yes, I used to do those things. But no more. Why? Because the glorious light of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai has been shined unto me. Right? Through discipline. Right? Through consistency. Through dying daily. Constantly repeating. And repeating that process of repentance. This is how you stay on that course, that straight gate. But as you can see, a lot of our people have been seduced, right? That seduction. So-called white man, you know, he knows our people's weaknesses, right? Because a nigga is a creation of the so-called white man, right? He knows your weaknesses, that big booty bitch. He know your weaknesses is escapism through drugs. He know your weaknesses, the paganism. He know your weaknesses, your lack of discipline as it relates to your diet, what goes in and out your mouth. He knows the evil lessons that he's given our people to hate themselves, going all the way back to Willie Lynch and prior to that. But our people have a hard time shaking it and becoming a new creature, right? Hey, and to those that don't shake it, hey, the Most High is going to shake you, right? Back to T.D. Jakes, right? Let me bring this out in Jeremiah 12 and 10. I'm going to run through these precepts real quick. Yeah, and they say every chance he gets, he's changing up the doctrine. He doesn't call on the name of Yahweh Shai, the mark of the beast. He's double-minded, like it says in the book of James 1 and 8. Right? So it's just a matter of time before Nate Satan and men of his ilk are taken out of the way. You're going to go the way of the Pegasaurus, Sakari, so-called chief priest Alazar Banloya, right? You're going to go the way of T.D. Jakes. You're going to be set down. And the Most High is going to set someone more honorable in your stead, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 20, and it reads, this is Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 10, and it reads, many pastors have destroyed mine vineyard. They have trodden my portion underfoot. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. They have made it desolate, and being desolate it mourneth unto me. The whole land is made desolate, because no man layeth it to heart. Right? It said, many pastors have destroyed mine vineyard. They have trodden my portion underfoot. That's exactly what happens in plantation Christianity. Even among the Israelite community, you have false prophets that are raising up and doing what? Destroying their congregation by giving them what? False doctrine, teaching them lies, heresies, damnable heresies at that, right? Let me bring this out in the book of Zephaniah. But he's having a cash blitz, right? That's something, I was raised in plantation Christianity. And I can remember going into a service that's only 3 hours, but you might have 4 or 5 offerings. I mean, the church being pillaged and shaken down. And now that same approach, that same persona is being observed and demonstrated in the Israelite community. You have men with fringes telling people, hey, We need this money to erect this building, to buy this land. Hey, the Most High is going to destroy this land. But what Chief Ephraim did the same thing. Hey, we need to take some money and go down to Georgia and set up our own compound, right? And it says, hey, in Micah 2:10, arise and depart, for this is not your rest. But this is not saying make a physical exodus. It's not saying make a physical exodus, but rather reform your hearts, change your mind. Amos 9:8 said, the eyes of the Lord are upon the sinful king. No matter where you go, you're not going to be able to escape these curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, the 15th verse through the 68th verse. You won't be able to escape them. But this is exactly what people like Chief Ephraim, Nate Satan, Pastor Dow Wow, Malachi Z. York have done, right? They have given their congregation a message that, hey, we can elude these curses and we can get a lighter affliction by we could come together and obtain a lighter affliction by practicing group economics, because that's basically what it is, being nationalists, practicing group economics, right? I go to you to buy my eggs, you come to me for your clothes, we go to her for our education, we go to him for construction, we go to him for plumbing, our money circulates in our community, and guess what? Just like with Malachi Z. York, Esau comes with a bulldozer and rolls it all over. Just like with Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? They were doing just that. Had their own libraries, their own post offices, their own doctor's office, dentist's office, movie theaters, grocery stores. Until the so-called white man decided enough was enough and bombed his slaves that thought that they could escape those curses, all right? When in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, what does it say? Let's get it very quickly. Deuteronomy, chapter 28. I'm going to start with 15, and then I'm going to hit the point. This is Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 15. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all these commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. Right? So it said all these curses shall come upon you, and they will pursue you and overtake you till you be destroyed. There's no way you can get away from it. There's no enclave you can enter to escape these spiritual curses. Now different countries, this is 2nd Ezra 6 and 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Right? So that's what you're dealing with when you go into these stores and there's no food. When you go into the store, there's a scarcity of items. When you go into the stores and certain items, they're not going to be restocked or replenished onto the aisles. That's the retaliation, the retaliatory effects of our government bullying, intimidating, and imposing tariffs, taxes, and embargoes on these nations that, hey, they, like the scriptures say, let the weak say I'm strong. Now they're able to retaliate. And when they retaliate now, we're going to see and we're going to experience and feel the side effects of these tariffs. And we're going to see what happens when these nations that are mad choose to play hardball with us, right? Like I was speaking about Cuba, how Cuba has been driving these antique cars from the 50s and the 60s. Why? Because America placed embargoes on them. They weren't able to get certain goods and services. Why? Because they didn't want to bend the knee to America's policies. They wanted to continue to have relationships with countries that America had deemed enemies, right? But the same thing is going to happen to America. With our money, these different countries, they're not going to honor our money. People, when we travel with the American currency, it's not going to have the same value that it once had, right? These countries are going to treat us with hostility the same way that we've treated them, right? But the sown places being unsown are your Walmarts, the shelves being empty, your Publix, your Kroger's, your Sam Club, your Aldi, your Costco's. You're gonna go into the stores and there are gonna be certain items that are not gonna be there, nor is there gonna be a timeline for when they will be replenished on the shelves, right? Let me bring this out in 2nd Esdras 19 and 22. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 19. I'm sorry. This is 2nd Esdras 16 and 22. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the others that escape hunger shall the sword destroy. Like it says in Amos 5 and 18, as if a man did escape from a bear and a lion met him. You escape from the lion, you leaned on the wall and